this will be kind of an indie-rific video, as I'm going to talk a little bit about ROH. Well, not a little bit. I'm going to talk about ROH on ROH.net. I'm going to talk about the Dragon Gate pay-per-view, Bushido Code of the Warrior. So yeah, we will talk about that, and then we will talk about other things. So we started off the ROH show. They were talking about the fact that the American Wolves had broken up or broken away from Shane Hagedorn. This led to an Eddie Edwards match. It was going to be Eddie Edwards versus Brett Titus. This was pretty good. The ending, though, seemed like it was maybe a bit forced. Edwards looked like he may have got hurt when he did his dive. So, yeah, that kind of took away from the match. It was going pretty well, though, before that. It would be interesting to see what they would have done. But that's kind of what we got. So, it was what it was. Pretty fun stuff, and wish it could have gone maybe a little longer. Then we got some El Generico and Cabana stuff, as they were going to be in the main event. Then we got some Briscoes versus Kings of Wrestling stuff. Then we got Cerro Del Rey taking on Rachel Summerlin in a complete squash, which you would expect from Cerro Del Rey, to killing people, and then her saying, you know, where's the challenge, which hopefully I'm hoping would lead to, you know, her and Kong at some point in ROH. That would be good stuff, would it not be? And then we got Colt Cabana, El Generico taking on Kevin Steen and Steve Corino in a steel cage match. This was pretty good. Not nearly as good as the other matches they've had in this feud, but this was still pretty good. Just kind of continually led up to you know, kind of what it was and what we get and all of that sort of craziness that we'll probably get at Final Battle. So, which is what all this is leading up to. It's a pretty good show. I wouldn't say it was a great show, but this was a, you know, good solid show. It did its job, and we'll have to see how next week's is. But now let's talk about Dragon Gate USA. They put on their first iPay-per-view. The iPay-per-views will basically be the house shows before they tape the pay-per-views, which will still air on the select, I guess the way to put it, cable services. It looked like the setup of the show looked better in that they were playing a smaller venue, but it was such a small venue, it did look kind of cheesy. And you know, even though it looked like you had the illusion of a lot of people there, it was so small you could tell that there wasn't a lot of people there. And then on top of that, it didn't look very good. There was probably maybe 300 people there, maybe 350, from what I've been able to read and kind of get. So there was that going on. But we got a nice little intro package, which was kind of just there. Then we got CIMA coming out and introducing everybody in broken English, which I didn't like this when they did it at the Phoenix shows. Didn't like this here, but it was what it was. He came out with Ricochet. And then we had Chuck Taylor taking on Ricochet, taking on Johnny Gargano, taking on Eric Cannon. In the opener, this was a good little match, kind of what you would expect from an opening match like this. This is always kind of whenever, you know, when TNA used to do these multi-man X Division matches, this is kind of what I would have liked them to be, and this is one thing I do like about the Dragon Gate shows, is they usually do start off with this, and Gabe does a good job with that. So there was that. It was what it was. It was a bunch of spots. It was pretty good. Nothing to write home about. After the match, CIMA asked Chuck Taylor to join his faction. Taylor said no. Then Johnny basically begged, and CIMA basically just leaves. It was kind of weird. Then we had Homicide taking on Ric Swann. Homicide making his debut in Dragon Gate. This was not as good as it should have been. This was not a good Homicide match. I was kind of really disappointed in this match, to be honest. I maybe Homicide's working. Also, the fact that he was taking on a guy that I've never seen, and Ric Swann. I would have much rather seen Ric Swann in the opener, and then maybe Eric Cannon or Chuck Taylor taking on Homicide. I think that would have been a little better, in my opinion, but that's not what we got. This did lead to some, storyline stuff, as Homicide beat Swann. Then Aries basically told Swann, watch my match with Yoshino and you'll see how it's done, type of thing. So there was that. When Austin Aries came out, Austin Aries did cut this kind of promo, which, if you kind of understood what he was saying and you knew what he was saying, he did kind of talk a little bit about ROH, but it was all kind of really vague. It was kind of what it was, and he cut this promo, which kind of just felt kind of weird. But then we got Yoshino versus Austin Aries in a match that should have been much better than it was, that was far too long. A lot of the matches on here, on this show, I felt were way longer than they needed to be. This one in particular just felt very long. Wasn't nearly as good as it probably should have been, and that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Then we had the I Quit match. Johnny Jacobs taking on Jon Moxley. This is a feud they have been building up for a while. So this was kind of that. But like, Jimmy Jacobs and Jon Moxley, just while they're good against each other, you put them against any of the Dragon Gate guys, and they just seemingly get lost. They don't look like they're on the same caliber. This is one of my problems with the Dragon Gate shows, Dragon Gate USA shows, is that the guys that they're bringing in for the American talent just aren't good enough to be, in my opinion, in the ring with the Dragon Gate guys. And it really just doesn't feel like a Dragon Gate show. And that's unfortunate. There are definitely guys I think they could use. They probably have to spend too much money to use, though, that they could use. And some guys they have, and some guys they haven't, and that's kind of unfortunate, but it was what it was. But this match was okay. The ending of the match, it was brutal. It was a pretty good I Quit match, and that it was, kind of not maybe as brutal as we thought it was going to be, but it had its brutal spots, and the ending was just kind of crazy. But it just was what it was, I guess, is the best way to put it. So there was that, I guess. But there was, I could see some people really liking it. I myself didn't like it. So there was kind of that. Then we got Brodie Lee and Akebono taking on the Osirian Portal. This was kind of a squash. Not just kind of, this was a squash, but it was also a bit of comedy. This was actually pretty good. If you've never seen the Portal before, they are something to see. This was complete comedy. Some people would love this, some people would hate this. I liked this, so it kind of was what it was. I mean, that's pretty much the only way I can kind of put it. Entertaining wise, this was very good. So it was what it was. Then we got Yamato and Tozawa taking on Horiguchi and CIMA in a tag match. This was, again, I would say really good, but not great. Probably not as great as some people would want or think it should be. Again, this went long. Again, these matches went very, very long, it seemed. This match didn't need to go this long. But this was a pretty solid match. Then we had the main event, PPV Hulk taking on Shingo. This was, my opinion, this was definitely one of the better, if not the best, PPV Hulk title matches. But this was a lot of fun. But again, this went almost 30 minutes. It didn't need to go 30 minutes. There was a big part of this that dragged. But still was a great match. But still, it felt like it dragged and just kept dragging and kept dragging and kept dragging. But it was kind of what it was. We had a little angle at the end, which we've had, but again, these angles just don't really seem to work because it's just not as good as you would hope. So there we go. The show was really based around them finally doing like American factions. Yay, faction warfare. This is what I did not like. This is what I did not want out of Dragon Gate, even though that's part of Dragon Gate, but Gabe did so well with this the first time. I mean, really. But, you know, it's Dragon Gate. As a lot of people know, I'm just not that impressed with Dragon Gate. A lot of it has to do with the fact that while, you know, we're seeing a lot of the same guys, we're not seeing a lot of the same guys coming from Japan. A lot of the matchups just don't seem to be delivering as well as they should. One of the things that I really wish they would do is I wish they would give it more of a actual Dragon Gate Japan feel. When Pride, back in the day, when Pride Fighting Championships came to the United States for the first time, they put on a Pride show, and they made it a Japanese Pride show in the United States, and it came off very well, and I really wish Dragon Gate would do that. But, you know, probably never going to see that. But anyways, overall, you know, this wasn't like this wasn't iPay-per-view. It went, what, about 3 hours, I guess, a little over 3 hours. But it was, you know, it was really good. I wouldn't say it was great. I just didn't feel it for this pay-per-view, for whatever reason. But that's just me. But there you go. Ring of Honor, pretty good. Dragon Gate, really good, but not great. And really, Dragon Gate needs to put on much better shows than this, in my opinion. Just, you know, I keep saying that. I really, really, really believe that. I just can't see them being successful unless they really put on really great shows every time out. They have to do that, because especially since they're only putting on, you know, 2 shows every 2 months or so. So there we go. But anyways, with that, I'm out. Have a good one later.